Hi, I'm Phil, and this is It All Started With, and I'm joined by John. And then today we have Landra Barta, who's with Dirty Deeds. You've been in business a couple years now?
Yeah, I'm in my third year right now.
Third year. So Dirty Deeds does not quite describe what it is that you do. What is the business
That's part
Dirty
of the
Deeds?
fun.
Yeah.
Well, I started off as a professional organizer, and I was getting a lot of calls from realtors like, help us declutter this house to put it on the market. And so it's kind of split off into staging. So, maybe about 30-40% of my business is still professional organizing for homes and home offices and businesses. And then, the bulk of it, more of 60-70% or so, is home staging. And I have kind of a different brand of home staging, which we'll talk about later.
So home staging and then also professional organizing.
Yes.
And so it's been a few years. What made you kind of want to go off on your own and do your own thing?
Well, I used to work in construction. I have about 7 years prior experience in construction. I was a project coordinator and on some really cool job sites, just, doing everything from remodels to just refurbishing. Like this home, the last one I was on was about 6,000 square feet on Telegraph Hill. And it was an old, by a famous architect. I'm probably going to forget his name, but throughout the whole process, we had tours of people that were fans of this architect coming through and looking at, all of our work and making sure things were, just right. And we weren't modernizing it too much. And
Right.
so when I say refurbish, it was really taking off all the original hardware, and it was all, solid polished chrome, and taking it all off and cataloging it and then getting it to the chromer to get it re-chromed and then getting it reinstalled. And, that was just one example, but just down to the very bare minimal detail, we were utilizing everything that was original and beautifying it and bringing it back. So we didn't modernize it at all, which,
Oh, that's awesome.
it was really interesting because that's not usually in construction. You're trying to modernize, using demo trucks and you're pulling out a bunch of crap that you don't want on the house
Right.
anymore and bringing in new. So this was really fun. But what was your question?
Yeah, knowing your business, Dirty Deeds. First, the name's great.
Right.
Amazing name. Piques your interest. Probably speaks to your personality a little bit.
Yes.
Maybe.
Maybe.
We'll get into that. And I think that experience you just described with refurbishing and reclaiming and revitalizing, it's knowing your business a little bit. It sounds like that experience really made an impact in what Dirty Deeds does today.
It did.
Especially in the staging piece.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us, staging, home organizing. Tell us how that story connects.
Okay. Yeah. So I was working, I finished up that job site and I was headed out to the beach and to another job site. And I was going to be straddling two and kind of like doing a couple days a week at each. And one of the jobs got hung up in permitting and they were thinking 4 or 5 more months. And then the other job we just lost, which was weird because we had been bidding it and working on plans and with architects and subcontractors and just coming up with the whole scope of everything for a year and a half. And all of a sudden, the owner wasn't calling us back. So I'm stuck with no job to go to. I had 2 jobs, lined up in the queue. And my boss, who was also my cousin, who I love dearly, pulled me in and was just like, hey, Lan, I got nowhere for you to go. You're finishing up this job and these 2 jobs we don't have right now. And so that's the nature of, construction.
Right.
There's, a lot of layoffs and, bulking up your staff and then cutting back when it's lean. And so that's kind of where I was at. And I was at this fork where it's like, okay, I can go find another construction company to work for, or I can pull out the parts that I really loved doing and create something of my own. And I've always been, a little type A as far as organizing and keeping things, on the job sites. It was always, everything was real spick and span. And I was also the one that was sent out to jobs for inspections. Was this done correctly? Is everything plumbed? Take your level, take your tape measure, see what needs to be done and who needs to come back and redo what they did. So that was part of it. And so it was such a natural what's the word? National transition from organizing to staging, because I started to bring in that mindset of glass half empty. And I've told John in conversations we've had that it's not a popular title, but I'm kind of a glass half empty gal, where I come in and see, okay, well, what's empty and how are we going to fix it? And what's, problem solving basically. And so bringing that into helping homes, get sold and get ready for market, has been, just really my turning point and the pivotal point where I was like, okay, now my passion's like coming alive. I'm really, enjoying what I do.
I love that. That's so cool that you took the best parts of your prior career and brought it forward into your own business here in
I
Marin
did.
County in the Bay Area, whereas previously you're in Orange County.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's true.
Well, great. So yes, up here in Northern Cal,
And I've been here 20 years, just to clarify.
Just got here.
But yeah.
I'm wondering, so explain more about the glass half empty part.
Okay.
I'm familiar with half empty, half full.
Yeah. So I think, and it's hard to turn it off, at the end of the day, it's hard to turn it off. But I do tend to see things like what needs to be done. Walk into a room and it's like, oh, that light switch is, not level, and all those screws are different colors and that kind of thing. Like my eye just goes to what needs to be fixed.
Oh, gotcha.
That ceiling tile has a leak or this, that kind of thing. And so then I start making a list of what the scope is going to be and then breaking down to who of my guys are going to do this, because I've built really strong, great relationships with good subcontractors that I know and trust. And they've been under me where I'm saying, hey, that is not how we do it. You guys ought to come back and retape and repaint this, that kind of thing. So they're used to my standards and with Tom Rose Construction. And so it's really fun to bring them back in and be like, hey, I've got a new thing and you'll be great at this because you painted the chimney last time and we're going to do the same thing here. And, I already know their level of expertise and their level of quality and trust them.
Do it right the first time or we're going to do it again.
Right.
Because Landra has the critical eye, right? And that's important. And are you a realtor's best friend then?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think, once I've done a couple jobs with people, they're just like, you're coming along to everything. I mean, one realtor wants to bring me to initial presentations with sellers. Like, hey, you're just going to come in and we're going to lay out everything out. This is part of my team. Landra's going to come in and stage. I know you want to stay while we sell the house. So that's where she comes in. And it's kind of
especially like kind of in a market like right now where it's not a fast, wild market. Like you really,
right.
As a home seller, they really want to put their best foot forward, right?
Some homes are sitting. That's true.
And the homeowner needs to maybe still live in the house while it's on the market.
Yeah.
And they don't want to live necessarily in staged furniture. Or they don't have the budget that they want to allocate to the realtor for staging. So you're an alternative to traditional staging. Maybe explain that in a little more detail.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
And most stagers won't allow their furniture to be used. So the only time a traditional stager comes in is when everyone's moving out and the place is vacant, and then they're rolling out rugs and bringing in everything. And it's really just for looks, for sales. They don't,
so it's a showroom.
Sit there and sit on the couch or, exactly. So that's traditional staging. So if a family can afford to move out and, they don't have an elderly parent or young kids at home where they can just move out and have the luxury of having a vacant house to sell, then that's when I come in. So that's kind of my specialty, owner-occupied staging. And not a lot of stagers do it. I've heard it once or twice and, they're like, we don't like to do it, but occasionally we'll do it. I've more often than not, I will meet a realtor and they say, nobody does what you do. And so I need you to come and take a look at this. And so owner-occupied staging, just to kind of clarify the difference, is when the sellers are staying in the home during the wholesale cycle. So they'll be using the couches, the bedding, they'll be using everything. And so I don't keep an inventory and rent those items out. I will go in and I'll just kind of tell you what happens. So first of all, we just start with
so what does it look like? I'm selling my house. I've met my realtor. My realtor's like, you've got to talk to Landra because you can do a better job presenting your home for sale, right?
Yeah.
And maximizing the sale price.
Yeah. So then what happens?
Mostly the seller is paying for this service, but there is a good chunk, maybe 20% or so of realtors like, hey, this is my gift. I really want the house to be presented well. They are insisting on staying in the house during the sales. So I'm going to pay for this. So either way, we start with the realtor and the seller, and we do a complimentary consultation with them. So I'll do a walk through the house, find out, what's your target date? When do you want to get this on the market? Do you have a photographer in line? Great. When is he coming? When do you need me to be finished? What's the drop dead date? That kind of thing. And then we walk around and I take just a bunch of pictures, and I'm there probably 45 minutes or so, go home, pour all of those pictures, and then come up with the scope of work. And a lot of it is omitting things like, that bookshelf full of books, would make the room look so much bigger if we got rid of that. So I'm omitting things and then writing a list of what I need to procure. So then I come back, help them declutter the area. A lot of times they're just like, just let us know what to get rid of and we'll get it done before you come. And that's going to save on labor costs for me and make, a little bit more affordable for them. So once everything is decluttered and cleared out of the area, then I reposition the furniture to kind of a design aesthetic. And then I procure new items such as new bedding, new towels, new front doormats, some plants, couple orchids, maybe some fruit for a fruit bowl. I just procure everything that's needed for the staging. And I'm the last person. So it's usually like declutter, professional cleaner comes in, stager, photographer. And then I take pictures of the beds and everything because people are like, how am I going to make the bed like that? Well, I'll text you some pictures and you kind of see how I set up the pillows and fold everything down and that kind of thing. And
and you're the declutter piece and the staging piece. So traditional staging companies, they bring a truck over with a warehouse full of furniture, add it after already having removed all the existing furniture. So you're really organizing and then subtracting for the most part.
And then I'll add the new
touches
items.
And maximizing kind of what they already have too,
Mm-hmm.
right?
In different orientations. That's pretty cool.
That is the tricky part because first of all, I want to up-level things and make it more modern. Okay, I also want to neutralize, like if they've got some bright red pillows, we're probably going to put those away and put some beige ones in, whatever. So I'm up-leveling it and modernizing it. I'm neutralizing it, but I also have to fit into somewhat. There has to be a bridge between what they have and what I'm trying to accomplish. So it's really tricky to try to find pieces that fit in, but also make it more neutral and make it more modern.
And the one thing I didn't think about until you mentioned it. So really the photographer coming in after you is sort of the main event. I mean, obviously they're going to tidy up and try to recreate that for like an open house or when they're showing or something. But the photographer, that's the main event.
Yeah.
That's everybody's first
impression of the property.
Yeah.
And that spikes the Zillow likes, the Trulia, the realtor likes on a listing.
Yeah.
Because of Lando's work. It's true.
I know. It's just like...
So you're detail oriented, you're a designer, multiple skill sets in one person, one company.
Yeah.
Plus you have such a cool name. Tell us a little bit about
Thanks.
how you came up with the name Dirty Deeds. Because depending on where your mindset is,
because
you could go one way or another with that.
Well,
right?
yeah, hopefully you're a rocker like me, and that's the first thing that comes into your mind. AC/DC, which I am scheduled to see in August. But
okay,
cool.
Right. If they can last that long, right, guys? Come on, pull through.
Hey, at least they like each other.
Oh, I know. See, that's what makes a band is the cohesion. It really
I love
does.
band drama. It's the best.
I know, but that's why bands break up.
Well, they break up.
Number one.
It's because humans working together that closely for that long is.
Yeah.
Same with business partnerships,
I mean, right?
Very similar.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I was, didn't even have staging in my mind. It was really organizing. And I'm like, dirty, clean, organize. And it was just like dirty. Oh, what can I play off on that? And it just came, literally just came to me like Dirty Deeds.
Because that's something people don't like doing is organizing or.
Yeah. And so then I threw the lightning bolt in there just to remind you of
Rocket.
Such an excellent band. Yeah.
Love it. Okay.
Well, I'm wondering too, is there ever like a piece of furniture that somebody loves that was grandma's or like any good stories of like, this has to stay or, we don't move that?
Yeah, that happens a lot. And so that's another challenge, right? Because you have to,
we want grandma on the mantle in the vase.
Don't knock that over. But yeah, that's another challenge because it all comes down to the owner. They're living there and it's their place. And so, I just tell them from the start, I'm going to make suggestions. My goal is to sell this as quick as possible for the most money possible. And I think that's what staging does help accomplish, as you kind of touched on that earlier, John. So, the more you kind of follow in these guidelines, I know it sells. I work with realtors. This is what I do. The more you follow those, the better I think your outcome's going to be. But at any point, if you have pushback or whatever, I mean, you're living here. You're the bottom line with that.
Right.
And then sometimes people just need the freedom to let go and for me to tell them like, hey, I know this is important to you and I'm not telling you to get rid of this, but can it go to your daughter's house during the sales cycle? Because I do think that people make such a snap judgment when they walk in. And a lot of times it's the woman who is making the decision. She walks in, I don't like it. I don't know why. I just don't like it. You know what I mean? And then you're like, what? Tell
This
us.
house is
You're
dead
trying
to
to
me.
pull it out. Sure.
It's true.
But it could be based on that one thing. And she doesn't even know it's based on that. It's a lot of this is subconscious. So I'm trying to remove those roadblocks early on. And, this is a great chair. I love it. It's very special, but it's not neutral and it doesn't necessarily fit into what they want to bring into the space. And so for the purpose of selling this house, that is the only purpose that we would move this to another location.
Because that's at the end, it's kind of, you're helping people also frame that in their head that like you're selling your home.
Mm-hmm.
You're not selling your own personal style or anything else. Like you're going to take that with you and do that somewhere else. This isn't about that.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like an interior decorator too, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
and I still do that as well,
or?
because there are a lot of people like, I'm not selling my house, but I need you to come do exactly that because my stuff is, I've got great bones in here, but it's a little bit tired as far as colors and style and I need to up level it. Can you come do that? So I do that all the time. And do I have interior design background? No, not formal training. I did not get a certificate or anything like that. But I have always, from a very young age, my mom was an art major and she's an incredible artist. And she's always exposed me to design. They've always had incredible taste. We built a 3,100 square foot postmodern home in San Diego County. And it's so funny because it was so cutting edge and so different that there would be little kids that would come over and be like, my mom thinks your house is weird. You know what I mean? Because it was so out there. So I've always just been exposed to that. And, we always had Architectural Digest at the house. And I've always, watched all kinds of, movies and TVs that have to do with design. And then every time I'm not even exaggerating. Every time in construction, an owner would say, I don't know what to put here, what finish do I, what tile, whatever. The guys would just be like, ask Landra, she's great at that. And I've gone to tile showrooms, stone showrooms, Benjamin Moore. I've been to all kinds of suppliers and vendors with the clients, with sellers in construction, helping them pick out finishes. So that is my experience.
I know. I think sometimes when people's education and background comes from experience, they really can give it like a unique style. And otherwise everything starts looking the same.
First principle thinking. She's doing it. She's thinking for herself. She's not overstudied and following a playbook.
Yeah.
Which makes you so great because now you're doing this all the time when you're using all these skill sets that you've developed over your life from growing up around your family to the construction company to now obviously doing it every day. So,
and your relationships with the realtors, because obviously you've proven your strengths.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
thanks for seeing that.
The realtor relationships, and then there's the home organizing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's touch on the home organizing and restaging of a home that someone's not selling.
Oh God, that's brave.
Yeah.
I guess people are, this isn't a ordered organizing.
A lot
like somebody's raising their hand. They're like, come and organize it.
I think about Landra a lot because I'm like, okay, I have two boys, a 3-year-old and a 7-month-old. Yeah. And my house, after now living there for a year and a half, it feels more cluttered than ever. And so I'm like, damn it, these drawers might need some organizing. The stuff that I walk into each room and see probably does. Because for me, I don't know if this is common from what you see of the homeowners you work with, but I can go into a room and I ignore half the stuff that's been sitting in a particular place for 6 months. And my wife sees it all and she gets annoyed with me that I haven't moved that thing, but I literally don't see it. And so I'm just wondering, how could home organizing or home orientation, furniture orientation, a switch up, like how does that benefit the homeowner?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's your coping mechanism,
Yeah.
ignoring it.
Oh, God, yeah.
Well, how does that work?
So
though?
she's a therapist too.
Right.
Well, it's very hard with young kids. So I will tell you that first. I mean, like you're
Yeah.
cleaning up a place and they're messing it up right behind you. So it is hard. But I do work with the clients, not only to get it organized, but also to keep it organized. And I help them put systems in place. Like this one family, I'll give you an example. They had this huge pile of paperwork and a lot of it was mail.
Mm.
And then I saw it like 3 different places in the house. And so I just was like, let's walk in from your car. We're going to go out to your car. Let's walk in. Walk me through your evening and how these piles get started kind of thing. So we walked through and he opened up the mail, came in, and then he just went like that and kept walking. And so I was like, okay, well, this is one of your main pain points. You guys hate this pile here. So, I mean, this is going to sound super logical, but literally that it just hadn't occurred to them. And so I just said, nothing gets put down. Like your purse goes on this hook, your jacket goes over here, and you walk right over to the recycle and start sorting. And then I want to have an 8x10 file box here, and we've got bills to be paid, letters to be answered, and that kind of thing. So they put bills to be paid, and then they had 2 things they had to RSVP for, and they stuck that in to be answered. And then there was a graduation announcement, and they put it right on the fridge. So no pile. And they had, gone through it. And then he just said, that's great because then I don't have to think about, oh, there's so many bills in there. I don't even want to open that. I already know where the bills are. And so when it's billed,
I hate not knowing what's in the pile. I know something's in there, right?
Exactly.
Something's in the pile that I got to deal with.
So just get rid of it right at the moment. So that's
so not
easy
just
one, but
organizing, cleaning up, but systems and process in place that follows the family journey.
Yeah.
I think she'd be a good digital marketer. Critical eye, spotting, gaps in the funnel and the customer journey. And there's kind of a similar thing. I love that you actually walked through, hey, walk me through you getting home. Where do you put your things? And then you help organize and create a system that's doable for them. That's cool. And no one takes the time to think about that.
Well, the weird thing is too, is there's got to be some sort of level of trust because you're obviously you're clearly respectful of like somebody's space. This is somebody's personal space.
Yeah. And you have to be respectful of their emotions too, because there's so much emotion tied up in people's things, even things that you think are very inanimate. Like, why do they even care about that? You just have to be very in tune and watching their face and kind of looking for cues. And I usually check in every half hour or so, especially with new clients. Like, hey, how are you feeling? Where are you at? I know we just got rid of a bunch of stuff. How do you feel about that? And some people are like, what? I didn't even think about it. This is great. It's freeing. And other people are like, yeah, that made me feel really uncomfortable. And it's like, okay, well, let's stop and talk about it and let's take a break. Or and I even try to change the scenery. Like, hey, we're going to walk out front and we're going to just take a 4-minute walk up down the street and then come back. Because so many of it is really emotional, and that bill pile might mean nothing to you looking at it, but maybe they have a different relationship with money and they're really, they didn't get that sale last week or whatever. And now they have to pay those bills based on a slimmer budget or, it just could be anything. And when you're helping them purge a closet, there could be some items in there from, a cousin that passed away or anything. So you have to just be very sensitive to anything that's going on and really pay attention to their cues and how they're doing and check in constantly.
And so the home organizing piece, you're doing it hand in hand with one of the owners, the homeowners?
Yes, that works out best. Occasionally someone will be like, hey, I want every one of those things. It's in my business. I just don't know how to organize it. And I got to go over here and take a bunch of calls. So then I'd measure out the shelves, I go by the bins, and then I just start sorting and putting it in and labeling. That's very straightforward. That is super rare. It's usually like, this garage is horrible. We just keep throwing stuff in there and we haven't been in there. We haven't opened half those boxes. So then we work hand in hand where we're opening things and we're sorting. We got camping, we've got sports, we have laundry, cleaners, all that kind of thing. And then I try not to touch things twice. So with the person with me, it's like if you have something in your hand, like I'm never going to use this. Let's just process it right then. So we've got recycle, trash, and donate.
Okay, very cool. So you're
kind
working
of where it starts
in lockstep with the homeowner, being sensitive to the prized possessions or memories or whatever that could trigger them emotionally, take them outside for a little therapy break, walk, breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
So that's really sweet. Now, how much say do you give the homeowner when it comes to moving existing furniture pieces around to create a new orientation in a room? Is that more
I don't
just
want to
Landra?
assume that
Yeah. Okay.
they're unhappy with their setup. I can walk in and be like, "Oh, I would never put that couch there. That's blocking the window, whatever." I have my own kind of glass half empty. I
Right.
start seeing stuff right away, and I just got to keep it to myself. And then I ask, where are your pain points? What bothers you about this room? And if they're like, "Oh, it's just so crowded, whatever," I'm like, "Okay, well, are you open to some new orientations of things? Are you open to possibly purging a couple things or moving them to a different location?" So I just tread lightly, and I already have my idea of how I would set up the room, but it's not necessarily what they want. They may say, "Nothing, I love this room." Okay, let's move on to the next room.
You're like, are you sure?
It's up to them. Yeah.
Well, you must be. It takes a level of confidence too to
Yeah.
suggest to people to do things differently, right?
Mhm.
I mean, is that something you're aware of, or I mean,
I think I am aware.
yeah, you're pretty certain. You've got to be pretty certain that you're making positive suggestions.
Yeah, I think so.
Nice. That's great.
So you're 2 years in to your business, right? We heard about prior to this Dirty Deeds business, what you were up to, and personally, professionally. Now, 2 years in, what have you learned since starting? How does the business look today versus 2 years ago?
Well, one of the biggest stumbling blocks in the beginning was the emotional component, because I can be very compartmentalized. When I got to put my head down and get stuff done, it doesn't matter if I feel like it or whatever. It just happens, and I push that emotion somewhere else. And I tend to be very efficient and work very quickly. And so I think I did learn where, someone was like over there with their arms folded and like looking overwhelmed. And it was like, "Oh, how long have they been standing there like that? I didn't even notice." You know what I mean? So it was a learning curve there with that in particular. Like, wow, I need to slow down just because I'm on the clock. Because that's the thing. I'm like, I'm on the clock. For organizing, it's hourly.
So you do hourly for organizing.
So I'm like, I'm really trying to show them that I'm efficient. I'm getting their stuff done, and I'm making my worthwhile for this hourly. I don't want to sit there. "So where'd you get this book?" and
Sure.
that kind of thing. And so
That's what I do.
I'm thinking. So I'm thinking that's what we're supposed to be doing, and I was missing the human component in the beginning. And so then I started to notice and take a little note, and then I did ask a couple people for feedback, like, "Hey, how'd you feel about today?" And one person was like, "It was a lot. I didn't realize how attached I was to half those sweaters that we put in the donation pile."
Oh.
And that's one thing. I will never tell someone, "Oh, we should get rid of all these sweaters." It's like, how much room do you want to dedicate to sweaters? Okay, it looks like we can fit 8. Do you want to get rid of these, or should we make some more room for the sweaters? Now I'm giving them the option. I'll never tell someone they should throw something away. I may say, "We've got 3 open bottles of Windex. Can I, combine them into this and whatever?" I ask. I don't just assume something is trash.
And
or
instead of just being
like
heads
for a
down,
reason.
getting the work done, maximizing their, your hourly rate for their budget,
Mhm.
you're actually being sensitive to the human,
Yeah.
because everything that's physical that you're touching has an emotional
Yeah.
tie to that.
Well, that's an
person.
experience
Interesting.
thing too, because
Yeah, that's a huge
it's
change.
taken me a long time to figure out, like, other people's experiences with the same things that I experience can be different.
Absolutely.
We all have to remind ourselves of that.
Right.
I think.
And so, what seems like an ugly sweater might have a sentimental component.
Totally.
I mean, I'm actually reminded of selling a place, and there was a potential buyer that unknowingly crossed a sentimental red line with us, and that was the end of that deal.
Oh, interesting.
It was a washer dryer, which wouldn't
You
seem
never
like a
would have
thing,
thought, right?
right? But we purchased it with blackjack winnings.
Oh,
Oh,
And
that's
it was,
funny.
and it was, I don't know, and it was sort of the last straw, but they wanted that washer and dryer left in the home, and it's like, yeah, no, those are going with us. So
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
it's like, that's it. I called up the real estate agent. I said, no more, we're done.
Yeah. And it might not even been the winnings, but it's what happened that weekend.
Yeah.
or
Just the
something,
whole
who they were
thing. Yeah.
with,
Just the whole experience story. Yeah. It was all tied together. So
what else have you learned in the last year and a half, 2 years
Yes.
since starting the business outside of being more sensitive to the homeowner?
I think I knew this, but it's just been more and more reinforced to me in just the power of networking and just meeting the right people. Um, it really is important who you work with, and you don't have to work with everybody. And so it's so nice to find your crew, your people, and people that really appreciate and see, wow, she's really detail oriented. She pays a lot of attention to this, and she really has our best interest, and they're appreciative, and it's like, oh, you want to work with them again. And then there are other people that have their own agenda and just rush through, and they're just harder to work with, right? And so when you're networking, you get the advantage of choosing, these are really great people that really love their sellers and their buyers, and they have a lot of heart as a realtor, and those are the people that you want to work with. So the more networking I do, and meeting realtors, I get to find that cream of the crop that I want to work with.
what would be a good referral for you?
A good referral for me would be a super busy realtor that really has their clients' needs in mind, because I think a lot of realtors, I mean, obviously it's great if it's a vacant house and they get just to bring in staging and do it. But there's a lot of realtors that come to me that are like, there's no way these people are moving out. They have a lot of stuff and we really need you. And so those type of realtors that have their hands in a lot of different types of listings, that I can come in and help that family that wants to stay put, is ideal.
And then where do they find you?
Well, they can find me at www.dirtydeedsnow.com. Can also see some examples of my work on Instagram, which is Dirty Deeds Design. And I'm also working with Sparkplug Marketing,
Oh, nice.
who are diligently working on getting newsletters out and just really quality material that I think really speaks to people. And the open rate is crazy. I just couldn't believe how many people really clicked on it, opened it. I just thought they would just see, oh, I don't know who that is, and delete it or whatever. But
And Landra did the hard
it's been
part.
great.
We said, hey, where's your customer list? And it was scattered through 3 or 4 different places. But she said, here, take this CSV. Here's a screenshot of emails. And we merged it all on the list. And now we're engaging that list with monthly newsletter
Super
and
cool.
other more focused, shorter content type emails.
Front of mind kind of stuff.
Yeah. And so many people have a customer list that they haven't engaged because it's scattered throughout everywhere. So we asked that question, hey, where are your customers currently being housed? Where's the phone number? Where are the emails? And engaging a list that hasn't been engaged with is fun because you see high open rates, and the business owner gets all this positive juice flowing, and they get, oh my gosh, this is so exciting.
Well, the cool thing is
people
too,
reaching out. Yeah.
When you interact with somebody who's, it's a good experience, and you see somebody's name, especially somebody maybe you haven't dealt with in a while, pop up in your email box. It's like, oh, something
Mhm.
like your memory is, that person's great. That was cool. I had a good experience.
Yeah.
And of course, you
It's a
see
good reminder.
some unsubscribes, but nowadays what happens with email is people are monitoring their inbox and they're ignoring things that they don't have a use for now. Maybe they open it and read it, but they're not unsubscribing. It used to be they unsubscribe after reading something that they don't currently have a need for.
Mhm.
Now it's subconscious, like, hey, 5 years from now, am I going to have a need for Landra Dirty Deeds? Yeah, maybe. Okay, I'm not going to unsubscribe, but I'm going to open or I'm going to ignore it. So it's a really powerful thing to email customer lists, and it's a simple win that a lot of businesses don't currently do. And a part of that is because they're like, oh, I don't know where my customers live right now. So bring it all in one place and having a process for updating that list every month is important.
Yeah.
But going back to your networking, because you seem to be an efficient networker. Networking can be this thing that's, oh my gosh, it's so abstract. There's not much structure. How do you make networking efficient and work for you?
Well, I usually attend a networking group, 2 or 3 times to see, like, is this gonna be a group of people that I'm gonna be able to refer to as well as receive referrals back? And, I like to be where there are a lot of realtors. That really does help. And so, I belong to Darren Pomponio. It's another mortgage broker in Marin, and, he has a buy-sell meeting because a lot of people know that the Marin, MAR, I think it's Marin Area Realtors is what it stands for. But they do not have a marketing meeting. They just have tour. So you could like get a broker tour list that you download and you just go around and you view all the homes that are for sale. Up in Sonoma, they have Norbar and they do have a marketing meeting in every town. So it's like Roanoke Park has one day of the week, and then another day is Santa Rosa and then Napa and that kind of thing. And so you can go to the marketing meeting and kind of hobnob with some of these realtors and then go out and tour. Well,
Mm,
Marin doesn't have that. So this mortgage broker created his own meeting called the buy sell meeting, and he does it twice a month, once at Marin Country Club and then once down at the Corte Madera Inn. And so it's called Darren's buy sell meeting. And
oh,
so
nice.
he gets all the realtors to gather there, and there's about 120 every month. And
Wow.
so
Smart guy.
I locked into
Yeah.
that right away. So I've been attending that for, almost 2 years, and actually help check in so I can, meet even more
Oh,
realtors
wow.
and be a
Smart.
good help to
Having a
them.
role within the networking group.
Mhm.
And that's a very focused
Yeah.
or clear benefit to you and other
Mhm.
realtors for showing up to that.
Yeah.
I think if you join niche networking groups, like whether it's, female entrepreneurs or realtors or that's helpful.
Mhm.
Right. There's no wrong answer when
Yeah.
it comes to networking. It's more about your activity. Obviously, you can optimize, but
Well, it's kind of like your investments. You want to diversify.
Yeah.
So I definitely have, my realtor groups. And then I belong to Marin Women at Work, which is all women. And there's all different kinds of businesses. And then I'm very active in BNI, which is Business Networking International. And it's the largest networking group in the world. And it's kind of interesting because they just have one profession one seat per profession. So there's only one mortgage broker, one digital marketer, one stager, that kind of thing. And I'm on leadership in that as well. So it's pretty
right.
good.
Because I think the point there is like direct referrals. So that if they were loaded up with real estate agents or something, it would create a good referral relationship because now you're like picking between your kids.
And so
Yes.
clearly realtors are
Good
your
way to put
power
it.
partner.
Uh-huh.
Realtors are one of your power partners, and then you work directly with homeowners as well.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I can refer out usually a lot more than I can take in referrals, but I'm going to use the painter, the plumber, the electrician, that kind of thing. Because a lot of times when I come in with the staging, I utilize my construction eye. So I'm like, it's really dark in here.
Oh my God,
I
of
would love to
course.
have 4 can lights in here. I know a guy that can do them for $350 each, plus the switch, whatever. Okay, now this vanity in here, I really need to move it like 6 feet over. We're gonna have to
Holy
move
shit, that's priceless though. Just adding on top of just staging,
Mhm.
right? Knowing what's even possible or not possible because of the construction background,
Mhm.
let alone knowing the exact people to bring in and an approximate idea of what the cost would be.
Yeah,
That's
that I
huge.
work with and that I
Yeah.
trust. So yeah.
That's an important value add that you provide realtors. And well, that's interesting. Okay. So with regards to marketing, right? You're doing some email marketing, you're doing networking. What have you found works currently? Obviously, some power partners and realtors are a big
Mhm.
portion of your business. Yeah, talk, to us
Referrals
about
has really
marketing and
been the
referrals.
biggest.
Yeah.
And so now I'm branching out with spark plug marketing and like, okay, how can I utilize these relationships? And it's not just some list that I bought or whatever. These are all people that I have met, shaken their hand, given them my card, taken theirs, written them a follow-up email the next day. Great to meet you yesterday,
I
kind of
love the
thing.
cards.
Thanks. So, to answer your question, it's a little bit of all of it, but the follow-up is super important.
And so many people forget the follow up because it takes a business card, type it into your Gmail and send that initial email or text or a phone call. And then after that, people forget. But then keeping that same email, putting it into MailChimp, Constantly, whatever your
Yeah.
platform you're using and re-engaging consistently, that's what nurtures that list. So it makes, instead of Landra showing up to all these networking events in person, she's showing up and then getting so much long-term value from those connections she's making instead of it just almost being a waste of time showing up, getting a contact, emailing once and forgetting about it.
Right. And not only that, you're kind of, building your own little spot. And so like you become front of mind for a home stager because I've seen you at last week, next week I got an email and I'm remembered, meeting you last week or whatever, and just constantly recycling. Because it's kind of how memory works,
And
right?
it's not just solicitation of our services. It's a little bit about who Landra is and dirty deeds. And yeah, it's fun, but also talking about services. So
It is.
Definitely engaging people in different ways is important, right? So it's not stagnant every week. Every
Well, I
month.
like how you always say top of mind.
Yeah.
You always bring it up. Okay, Landra, how can we be top of mind? Let's do, 2 touches this month and that kind of thing. And yeah, because it's not just a one-time, nice to meet you. Hopefully, here's my card. Hopefully you'll need me
Right.
someday. It's staying in front of them because when they do need me, like, oh, there she is. That's exactly who we need for this listing, whatever.
Awesome. Well, Landra, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was fun.
Thanks for listening to our show. You can find It All Started With wherever you get your podcasts. If you got anything out of the show, we would appreciate a like or thumbs up. Thanks again, and we will see you next time.